past few years, a trend has cropped up centering on something very dear to me. It's a type of horror that is difficult to explain. It's one of those things where once you're in it and really stop and look around, it hits you. Allow me to introduce you to a little something called PS1 horror, an entire genre rooted in the idea that, for those of us who grew up during the era, the ambience and graphic fidelity, or lack thereof, of popular PS1 titles had set a very specific mood that bordered on being unsettling, even if the source material wasn't. The maddening, low-poly silence of Shadow Man, the absolutely haunting rigidity of Juggernaut, and the surreal, unexplainable amalgamation that is LSD Dream Emulator has made for an entire generation of games so unintentionally scary that they've spawned an entire genre of modern titles that have set out to emulate the conventions the PS1 brought upon us. The developers behind Puppet Combo and Chilla's Art are some of my personal favorites employing this style, and I highly suggest you check their games out if you're looking for more after this video. Tonight, however, I would like to focus on something special. A new Halloween tradition that I would like to start with you guys, centering on a little something called the Haunted PS1 Demo Disc. The Haunted PS1 Demo Disc is a collection of PS1-like demos curated each year into a free downloadable file on itch.io. These compilations began in 2020 and tended to recreate the old-school feel of classic PS1 demo discs that were so incredibly popular back in the day. The difference between those and these, however, lie in the fact that within those from Haunted PS1, the games are intricately crafted to feel haunted, to frighten you, to give you that sense that something isn't right. Unlike traditional demo discs of yore, Haunted PS1 establishes a very specific mood for each of their collections. For instance, in the 2021 release, the games were tied together through a very interesting hub world museum run by this cheeky fellow named Scully. He essentially gives us free reign to check out his barren museum, chock full of liminal spaces, a deafening silence, dim, unsettling lighting, and this unbridled sense that someone is watching us. It's a game within a game, and I think that's what makes the Haunted PS1 demo disc so special. They foster exploration, replayability, and consistent discovery at your own leisure, and even hold secrets for those willing to entertain the game's puzzles because, yes, these hub worlds have them, and yes, they're pretty damn cool. Now, with that being said, we are 3 years late to the party, and throughout the reign of Haunted PS1, tons of incredible experiences have come out of these annual releases. Tonight, you and I aren't just going to dive into this year's disc, because we're doing all three. Throughout the past month, I've gone and played through each demo that has come out so far, and have gone through the impossible task of hand-selecting 3 of my personal favorites from each year. You and I are going to go in chronological order from least to most recent in hopes of exploring some of the creepiest, most unique, and mind-melting experiences that have come out of this project so far. And so, we've got 9 games in total over 3 years. So grab that candy bowl, shut off those lights, and kick back, because tonight, you and I are diving down the abyss of the Haunted PS1 demo disc. Roused by the crackle of static, a lingering sense of dread crawls across the floor. You sit alone in your room. A dimly lit memory repeats in your head. 17 demos too horrible to describe keep you from your bed. Each one a personally crafted nightmare. You've tried to tell the others, yet no one understands. A CRT you don't remember owning flashes to life. Frozen in place, you look upon the flickering screen to spy a dismal, bloodied scene. A cracked and faded jewel case sits close beside. A pale gray plastic box sits in front, emitting a low whirring noise. Will you take to the controller, or let yourself be taken over? Contrary to the others, unfortunately the collection for 2020 isn't banded together by any sort of fancy museum or mall. But that's okay, because we're here for the demos anyway, and also this menu is pretty damn cool. First up on our journey is a game called FILTH, created by a dev named B. Zoroza, and described as the following. Filth comes crawling out of the cracks. Let's get to it. FILTH is a short game, but is one that packs a hell of a punch. Here, we take the role of an amateur detective, dispatched to investigate a string of strange disappearances that have taken place around Detroit within the past few months. Reportedly, a truck driver named Lewis Burton is the prime suspect. However, rumors have been circulating about him being abducted by this strange group and held captive in an unknown location. Luckily for us though, his semi-truck has been spotted near an old warehouse, and so we're sent to investigate. Yeah, no. I'm good. You turn back straight away and tell your superior you found nothing. Your quick return and short report raises some eyebrows in the office, but nobody was buying that cult nonsense anyway. You feel like an absolute coward and quit the force shortly after. The trail goes cold, and the case is eventually archived. Well, there you go. Alright, for real. Yes, this game does have multiple endings, and yes, you can wuss out. For those willing to see what lies within, however, you're in for a ride. We begin within a warehouse. It seems to have been abandoned for quite some time. Trash lines the hallways, and notes are scattered, giving us some backstory on the world being built here. Within them, we get references to people changing into something inhuman, roaches breeding within a person's mouth, and even a mention of someone called the Lice Mother. It's clear that something beyond our understanding has taken place here, and contrary to our initial belief, it seems like this place may not be abandoned after all. After poking around a bit, we eventually encounter a gun, and well, you know what that means. A malformed, human-like creature begins to pursue us, and after taking this guy out, we have the option to progress or end our journey here. Going with the latter gives us an ending where our supervisor takes over after we file a report. And ominously, after sending veteran officers in to investigate, they return with maimed legs infested with a strange larva. They mention something about feeding mom. The case never makes the news, and we never return to the force ever again. Upon heading back in and towards the back rooms, we'll begin to find that insects are slowly becoming more abundant. Weird sounds can be heard in various rooms, and this strange heat emanates through doorways. After heading upstairs, we encounter a podium holding a book with text in an unknown language, because cult. However, where things really get squirmy is when we finally find the guy we were dispatched to catch. Immediately in front of him is a path to a basement, and upon exploring it, we realize that the place is heavily infested with massive insects that prowl the walls around us. Egg sacs adorn the floors, and an unknown fluid resembling bile festers at our feet. Unfortunately, there's not much else down here, and from this point, we're left with no other option but to leave, thus bringing us to our third and final ending. With this one, our supervisor takes our report, even though it is absolutely batshit crazy, and in response, he suggests that we take a break. We do, and come morning, we wake up to the news of a massive fire at the warehouse. Everything is gone, yet 12 inhuman shells of bodies have been recovered. And after its initial wave in the news, the case of Lewis Burton is presumed forgotten. Filth Breed is a very effective, eerie little game based upon a grounded, relatable premise. I think what makes it so scary to me is the fact that this entire game feels like one very brief, yet disturbing nightmare that the protagonists can hardly wrap their mind around. The finer details of who these people are, why they're here, and what the fuck is going on with these parasitic larvae are never fleshed out. It's not even something we care to learn more about. Like any normal human being, the first thing we do is bury it, to get as far away as feasibly possible from ever reliving the hell we just went through by the hands of creatures completely alien to anything we have ever known. I think the real horror of Filth Breed is that they have to live with that, with knowing that something as disgusting and repulsive as what they witnessed lives in the same world they do. But given that they quit the Force and put it behind them, the rest of humanity is none the wiser, and they are left to fester. Sam receives a strange tape in the mail. Watching it brings her back to a deeply unsettling place that seems strangely familiar. Heartworm is a very special game and is one of the more PS1-like projects that have come out of these demo discs. Created by one person named Vincent, the game dives into the inner psyche and how memories shape who we are. Delivered with tank controls and a fixed perspective, we take the role of a woman named Sam. The game opens in her studio apartment, and it's like any other day. Things are quiet. Our book sits on the coffee table, and for all intents and purposes, life is painfully ordinary. Curiously, near the back wall is a document, and after inspecting it, we learn that it's a clinician's evaluation for Sam. She's unfortunately undergoing severe symptoms from childhood trauma, including insomnia, intrusive thoughts about self-harm, low self-esteem, obsessions, panic attacks, and high baseline anxiety. Reportedly, these are chronic and are ever encroaching on how she lives her life. At the end of the document, they suggest that Sam tries exposure therapy, a form of treatment focused on facing the trauma source head on. At this point, it's unclear how long it's been since she received this evaluation, or if she ever went forth to follow up on it. But what does become immediately clear is that we have a visitor. We pick up the tape and place it into our VCR. Yet, instead of watching it, we live it. Before us is a large home with the phrase, "Do you remember?" draped along the fence. And with this message, the implications are clear. Whatever happened on this tape is or is part of the childhood trauma that's been plaguing our entire life. After making our way inside the home, we find that it's strangely quiet. Novels about trauma-based hallucinations are scattered across the desk. The TV remains on with no one to watch it. And strange context clues like these track marks in this missing book plead for us to solve them. For most of the demo, puzzle solving is what we do. We take the key and make our way to the garage. We discover a novel about fearing death. We find the missing book. We unlock the basement. And towards the very end, we find a letter. Sam, I tried calling, but your phone's disconnected, and I didn't know what else to do. Everyone's worried. Your boss called Mom, and she said you stopped showing up. I called Jane, but she said she's not talking to you anymore. I know I haven't always been there for you, but if you need anything, I want to help. What's going on with you? Is this about what happened? It was 10 years ago, Sam. It's not your fault. You can't hang on to this forever. I love you. Please call me. D. Following this, we proceed down an elevator, revealing a dreamlike path leading to yet another television. And upon turning it on, the device itself doesn't boot, but rather an alternative version of us. One that is out to harm us, to plague us. Almost like a traumatic memory. The Heartworm demo is, by every stretch, a walking simulator that ends on a very effective cliffhanger. For those with a keen eye, however, an inventory system does exist, and in the full release, yes, there will be combat, and yes, the world becomes fully realized. Yet, even aside from all this, the small snippet of atmosphere we got was masterful, and there were moments when I genuinely had to stop to soak it all in. The subject matter Heartworm entertains revolves around the depths of the mind, all wrapped up within a love letter package to the survival horror masterpieces of yore. The dev is a one-man team, and if you're interested in helping them realize this gem to its full potential, they welcome any and all help they can get. Heartworm is a haunting A+ from me. Please play it. Neko Yumi is an ambient exploration game in which you traverse a cat-filled dream world. At this point, everyone knows about LSD Dream Emulator, a surreal dreamlike walking simulator with no defined goal. to this day, it's one of the most recognizable video games ever made, primarily due to its randomly generated worlds, vivid colors, nonsensical textures, and other things living in the same world you do. All living their own life. All bearing a history of their own. All just existing. Forever. Enter Neko Yumi, a game developed by Modus Interactive and heavily inspired by LSD. From the get-go, the similarities are abundant. The main menu is the exact same, the visual style, the exact same, and the absolute off-the-rails inexplicable weirdness. Yeah, it's there. Contrary to LSD, however, this build of Neko Yumi does have a defined goal, and that's to search for and catch 4 cats hidden throughout this world. At the game's beginning, we're dropped into a hub area with a large foreboding cat head staring down upon us. We initially have no idea who it is or what it's for. And who am I kidding? Making sense of anything in a game like this? Hopeless. To be honest, aside from running around and hunting down cats, there isn't much else to Neko Yumi. But I think that's okay, because the takeaway from its experience isn't so much about the gameplay, but the abstract environments given to us. As we explore, we'll notice that the day-night cycle slowly changes, and with it, each region inherits an entirely fresh, surreal feeling that maintains this odd sense of uniqueness, even when revisiting places you've already been to. This game is one massive liminal space, compounded by the otherworldly NPCs and animals that we encounter along our journey. For instance, we find fish with cat ears, bizarre 2-legged cat heads bouncing around, to nothing. A lone random, forever fiddling with this marble. A librarian trapped inside hallways with nothing to watch. And massive godlike heads shooting off into nothing. This game isn't disturbing by any stretch of the word, but it instills this uneasiness due to how absolutely weird it is. Nobody with any sort of logic as we know it lives in this place. Yet at the same time, perhaps we're the outsiders, or even just as nonsensical to them as they are to us. What is normal in this world anyway? Neko Yumi is a very brief game, yet it's one that I couldn't not talk about in a video like this. It's one of the most faithful recreations of LSD Dream Emulator that I have ever seen. And the bonus is that, hey, it's got cats, so that's pretty cool. If you're in the mood for a surreal, dreamlike trip into a world unexplainable, then this game awaits you with open arms. A full release is reportedly in the works, so hopefully in the near future, you and I can immerse ourselves into a fully realized world to really see what the inner confines of a cat's mind has in store for us. It's 2021, and you awake to find yourself in a room swathed in shadow. The memories of your arrival much too painful to confront in your uncertain state. The room is empty, save for one thing. A stone pedestal nakedly imposing. Something wants you to approach, and so you do. On the pedestal lies a lone, cracked jewel case. Your fingers run across the surface. Demo disc. Without warning, the darkness dies, sickly light flooding the room, and you find yourself in a massive building of stone walls and marble pillars. The air is cold, yet stuffy, as if you breathe gaseous dust. A showcase. You stand within a showcase. A showcase of curious remnants of the culture outside this place, of the culture you'll never return to, and the shapes inside the displays sting your eyes like glass needles. You are home. And so we make our way to Scully's Museum, a masterclass in liminal atmospheric design and a long deviation from the simplicity of last year's disc.
Welcome, friend.
This place is grand and completely open for us to explore at our own leisure. Multiple floors, showrooms, a bar, and incredibly done entranceways await. Like, look at this, they remade a whole creepy-ass arcade room to tie in with this one game. Remade a diner for this one. A mansion corridor for this one. And even this creepy-ass school hallway with the game's main character waiting on us with this one. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that this world is filled with immersion and secrets that we can uncover. Most notably with an entire hidden game locked within this one PC. I'll leave cracking that secret to you guys though, because right now, you and I have other arrangements. The demos are calling, so floor 2. Let's go. A demo for an upcoming horror game from Japan. This is a game with no exposition and absolutely no instruction aside from. We play as a little girl, walking a city street in Japan. We don't quite know where we're headed. However, after a bit of exploring, a coin beckons for our attention. Unbeknownst to us though, picking this coin up has other consequences. For some reason, a disturbing demonic abomination is stalking us and wants us dead. Where does it hail from? Who cares? We have no idea. And all we can do is hide. And if we dare run within its proximity, as we explore this rich environment, we'll happen upon a few curiosities, like this vending machine harboring a key. As it turns out, it costs 100 more yen than we currently have, and so we're left to try our luck avoid this monster, and see if we can find another coin. After heading past the back alley, we eventually find it, and so we're able to grab that key that we have absolutely no context about. Meanwhile, the demon can be seen, constantly stalking us, and unlike other games that employ the same mechanic, the fixed perspective combined with the awkward control scheme makes for an experience that is horrifying. At all times, you're able to see the monster in frame, even if it can't see you, and this makes for one of the most unique feelings of dread and anxiety that I have ever experienced in a horror game. Speaking of perspective, towards the end of the demo, you'll stumble upon an alleyway. However, contrary to how the game's been presented this entire time, for a brief moment, we take the perspective of the monster while still controlling this little girl. It is one of the most fascinating gameplay sequences that I have ever seen, and the anxiety that comes from this quick 15-second snippet of gameplay can and will spike through the roof. Eventually, we make our way out of its reach and into a home. The words "Type It" adorn the back wall, and on the TV screen in front of us is a message. Can you hear me? Can you feel me? My voice coursing through your fingertips. Unfortunately, at this point, we're pretty much left here with nothing to do. And if we leave the confines of this home, we again meet our demise. Walk is one of the most haunting experiences you can play, and I think it's because of its simplicity. The consistent, foreboding atmosphere, the intricately crafted set design utilizing rich color in each new area, the lack of direction or sense of place in this world, these claustrophobic streets devoid of anyone to help, and this disturbing, unknowable demon that is always in view and that will get you, makes for a horror experience that is phenomenal. Whether actually a demo or a standalone release of a completed game, Walk shines on every front and absolutely commands a spot as one of the greats. Please play this game. You won't regret it. Take on the role of the detective as you delve into a world of murder, kidnapping, and other atrocities, all at the behest of frogs. You guys ever been to a trailer park in Ohio? Created by a studio named Devour Games and inspired by sci-fi titans like The X-Files and Deus Ex, Loveland puts us into the shoes of an unnamed detective dispatched to investigate a myriad of bizarre disappearances and potential cult activity taking place within a rural trailer park. Reportedly, a once-renowned church pastor has, out of nowhere, undergone a sudden personality change, now spewing bizarre rituals and outlandish sermons surrounding the many frogs that reside in the area. We have no idea why, and it sounds crazy, but we got a call about it from Trailer 102, and so we're left to track them down, ask some questions, and figure this mystery out.
For the last couple of months, there have been several missing persons reported out of Loveland, Ohio. Initially, we had very little to go on, until about 1 week ago. Mr. Buchanan, a resident of a small trailer park on the outskirts of town, contacted the Loveland authorities to report strange happenings from within the park. He claimed that the other members of the community had begun worshipping frogs and have formed a cult whilst also kidnapping the local townsfolk. We are dispatching you to investigate these reports and determine exactly what it is we are dealing with. Good luck, Detective. We know you'll need it.
Once we make it to Loveland Cove, we're left with none other than to investigate by going door to door to see what exactly is going on here. Surely there's some logical explanation for all this. I hope. Oddly, nearly every single trailer that we check out yields nobody, leaving us with no other option than to break and enter each one. The interesting part about Loveland is that each trailer contains its own mini story in a way, and through context clues and notes scattered throughout these homes, we're given bits and pieces of the fallout that took place before we got here. For instance, within what looks like the home of a hoarder, we find a newspaper clipping detailing the rising number of missing people in Loveland. Yet on their fridge, they called Jeremiah from Trailer 104 a traitorous bastard before ending their to-do list with none other than to bathe in his glory. It's a little weird. Once we make our way to Trailer 102, the source of the phone call, the front door's open. I mean, it seems like someone's home. So let's see.
Transfer onto the rate space yourself and to top it off. A hurricane is wicked great at sea. A wonderful fruit.
The TV plays to no one. The phone is off the hook. The bedroom lies a wreck. Freshly cooked dinner sits on the table. And in the kitchen sits a recipe for something called frog repellent. Trailer 104 hides a key, and upon finding a crowbar and using it on this door, we encounter that traitorous bastard Jeremiah. Yet he's left in a trance by the hands of someone unknown. It's small snippets like this that drive this game forward. We're lured in by a mystery, by the social dynamics at play between these residents, and this game does a fantastic job at setting a very specific mood and executing that. Eventually, we find that a concoction known as frog shine is present in nearly every home, and through notes we find later on, it almost seems like this stuff brainwashes those who drink it. Reportedly, it causes euphoria, followed by a strange desire to keep drinking more until you are completely assimilated into the form of thought that the cult's leader, named Pastor Abram, desires. We find that cult members go as far as to serve it to people at local bars. Contrary to basic ethics, they give it to kids to force them to join their cause. And to those of you that are trying to get in their way, well, you just haven't found the Lord yet. You're a heathen, muddying his word, a sinner who will never be saved. It's clear that these residents are in past the point of no return, and as we explore, we'll find various pieces of a medallion that unlocks the gate to Pastor Abram's home. Once we head up there and explore it, we find more religious texts focusing on the Great Flood, a mysterious, unnamed VHS tape, and weirdest of all, a surveillance room. For some reason, the game stops us before we can investigate, instead dropping us here, our agency HQ, with no one around. You know, it's strange because it almost seems like we're more of a prisoner than an agent. But hey, that's just me.
Good evening, Detective. We hope your investigation was a success. Please have a seat. Thank you, Detective. Now, our line of work is very dangerous, especially to those with a weak mind. To combat this, we employ the use of sodium pentothal. Think of it as a kind of truth-telling serum. Now, Detective, please take the pill on the desk, place it into your mouth, and then swallow it.
From here, we're left with no other option but to take that pill, forcing us to tell the truth as if we wouldn't have already. Yet before we get context on what that's for or why we're here, the Loveland demo draws to its end. You know, Dev Hour is pretty damn good at cliffhangers because I have so many questions. In one of the homes, we find a note referencing a ritual taking place at the lake. And for a brief moment, we see figures walking in the distance as if we're being watched. A bedroom transformed into a mini swamp awaits in another, as if the resident living here became this. This sketchy resident wants us to kill Jeremiah, lest he ignores us and hides in darkness. This home was ravaged, leaving behind insects and religious imagery. When playing this game alone, discoveries like this set a mood that just bleeds mystery and intrigue. And interestingly, every action you take can cause the game to play out in unique ways. Through dialogue choices and the interactive phone system, we're able to unlock various items that we can use to uncover more about the story. Unfortunately, in my experience though, I found that the ending is all the same. I guess that's the hallmark of a good demo, because I genuinely want to uncover this story. Pastor Abram is doing things unforgivable, catalyzed by sermons completely outlandish, and I really want to know where he is. Where everyone is. And how the hell we got here. Step into your chamber. Let her do the rest.
Escape to a paradise previously only possible in your dream. Lose yourself in your dream existence. If you or a loved one has noticed any or all of the following symptoms, please call 1-800-726.
Echostasis comes from Enigma Studios and centers around artificial intelligence and its relationship to the human mind in the far future. In a way, it's like Soma combined with Observer in the sense that in this timeline, the development of AI has reached such a point to where the concept of a virtual utopia can be promised to those willing to experience it. If you've ever played Observer, however, then you know that when artificial intelligence and the human form combine, the result is detrimental.
duration of the last sequence?
You were connected for 16 minutes and 43 seconds, real time.
16 minutes? Am I losing it?
Our journey begins with a tutorial. We're dropped into a dreamscape with a foreboding sarcophagus in the distance, and communicating directly with the player is some sort of sentient program. They inform us that we need to help them to establish something called ecostasis by reclaiming this land, even though this reality is apparently not our own. And so, with what appears to be an angel in the far distance, we find a shotgun and fire at it, unleashing something beyond our level of comprehension. We find ourselves in what appears to be base reality. At least, in some aspects. The rest of the game takes place inside this chamber, and upon looking around, it's clear that life as we know it has progressed beyond a point of recognition. AI terminals command the world. Humans exist in delicate pods, living within an algorithmically generated utopia designed to maximize the output of dopamine and serotonin. Advertisements promise an entire new world, and something is wrong. A cyber attack has taken place inside someone's chamber, and we're tasked as an engineer with helping to solve that problem. Interestingly, we're able to interact with this terminal in the form of specific inputs, and entering terms like echo and utopia generate dumps of lore that are pivotal in world building. The way it works within ecostasis starts with the human mind. Upon entering a chamber, or pod, a new reality, known as an echo, is generated based upon your cerebral profile. Initially, it begins as a copy of reality as we know it. However, over time, it'll slowly morph into something that will maximize the entertainment and pleasure of you. Ecostasis, however, is something that you do not want. It's the point to where the connection between the human mind and body, known as a core, are severed, forever locking a version of your consciousness within their world, and in turn leaving your physical body completely brain dead. After poking around a bit, we learn that the human in that pod is subject number 65, and after entering their ID into the terminal, we find that they're undergoing a slow but steady ecostasis without even knowing it. This subject is so distracted within their perfect utopia that they haven't even realized the finer details corrupting before them. The good news is that we can help, and so we utilize a tool known as Dreamscape to jack into their mind to find their core and to re-establish that connection. Curiously, we only have 1 full minute to explore their mind, yet are given unlimited opportunities to try this. And so, with trial and error, we're able to speedrun this environment, unlocking shortcuts for our next run, and discovering paintings and artifacts from the depths of their psyche. Eventually, we find their core, and much like the beginning, a shotgun is given to us. Once we take it, we use it on this thing at the request of the AI. However, the result of our actions just might have killed them. We're then thrown back into base reality, with everything awry. We are complicit in this. Echostasis was successful. We have committed murder. You guys know that I am an absolute sucker for sci-fi horror, and Echostasis nails it with flying colors. The musical score, the real-life implications of our actions, the world so far removed from ours, and the natural apprehension of listening to the commands of an AI makes for a surreal, disturbing experience that provokes thought and introspection. When I was interacting with that terminal, I was picking its brain on this world's lore, and it said something that stood out to me more than anything else. First, we had algorithms that would simply suggest media that a user may like. Then these algorithms learned how to generate this media themselves. Today, the echo represents the natural conclusion of this process, an entire reality algorithmically generated from the user's cerebral profile. Our algorithm stands as the very best in artificial intelligence. We are very proud of her. Humanity has lost touch with itself to algorithms. Singularity has long been reality. But at that point, what even is reality anymore? In the before time, the mall stood king among shopping locales. People of all kinds flocked to them, swarming store after store, purchasing copious amounts of tie-dyed fabric and greasy food and novelty knives. But now the people are dead, and the corporate catacombs stand silent. Their only customers now are rats and cockroaches. Of late, though, there have been murmurs in the emptiness, flashes of too bright colors, flickers of wires and flesh, strangled electric sounds, almost like screams. Your town bore one such decrepit mall, a hopeful tourist destination long since abandoned by the few teens that frequented it. Yet you find yourself standing before it in the gloom for the first time in years. Lights flicker from within, tinny music emanates from disconnected speakers, and a phrase burns in your mind as if carved with a burning knife. This game's atmosphere is incredible, knocked out of the park by this opening foyer that is full of endless darkness. Curiously, it becomes immediately clear that there's a mystery here. Doors are chained up, storefronts are blocked off, and an entire upstairs area beckons, yet there's no way to currently get there. And so we're effectively given two options. We can entertain the mall's secrets and unlock its puzzles, or we can dive straight into the demos available to us. If we go with the former, we'll discover hidden items that unlock specific doors, introducing us to a sprawling network of claustrophobic hallways, reminiscent of Scully's museum. What they've done with this is amazing, and as a fan of old rudimentary graphic fidelity, everything here just feels off in the very best way. But while I could rave about this mall for another half hour, you and I are here for something else. So with that being said, I would like to make our way towards the first game on our last disc, Mothered, so we can finally see what's in store for us. A young girl named Liana arrives home after major surgery and is met with a strange mannequin claiming to be her mother. You remember those eerie liminal 3D concept renders from the mid-80s? Imagine that, combined with the bizarre, awkward FMVs that were prominent in PS1 titles back then, and that is what you get with the visual style in Mothered. And trust me, it makes for a combination that is absolutely chilling. We begin the game in a car. We're with our father, and he claims that he picked us up from major surgery. Oddly, he makes bizarre claims like the fact that we'll have to stay with mother in order to get back to our normal self, and that he's glad he got us out of that place. Even stranger, we never see his face, and towards the end of our drive, he gets incredibly weird about how everything he and our mother do is for us. I could be way overthinking it, but it almost seems like he wasn't supposed to pick us up. Like, why do we have to stay with mother? Why does that sound so strange? Eventually we make our way home, and our dad tells us to bring him a box. We head in, and from here, we get our very first look at what I was talking about earlier. Tell me this art style isn't unnerving as all hell. Eventually we find the box, take it outside, our dad leaves without giving us a hug, and we make our way back in. Eerily, mother is nowhere to be found, and we can hear crying from a bedroom. Even more perplexing, the bathroom mirror is taped up, supposedly for our own good. And in the far distance, we can see a foreboding barn engulfed in flames. So what in the world is going on here? And why is everything so off? It's a happy morning. The birds are singing, the sun is shining, we're alive, and making us breakfast is none other than Mom's gotten a little weird. And our breakfast? Textureless. On Monday afternoon, Mother gives us a tour of the home. She explains various house rules, like how we're forbidden from entering the downstairs bathroom, forbidden from entering our brother's room, and once again, that the mirrors are covered for our own good. At this point, it's really making me wonder what it is she's hiding from us. This game is like a weird mesh of illusion of bias and Goodnight Mommy, and this idea culminates in its purest form on Monday night, when we're just about to get ready for bed. Admittedly, Mother keeps things pretty abstract, yet her delivery was absolutely haunting. Something about looking up at a massive, alive and foreboding mannequin staring down upon you and airing out their life regrets just instills me with this feeling of dread that I haven't entertained in quite some time. Eventually, Mother tucks us in and we head to bed, and the next day we're tasked with meeting her outside for a chat. Here, she goes on this long spiel about her orchard and how it was the one thing in her life that allowed her to feel a sense of control. To look at this orchard, you don't see all the heartbreak that was involved in creating such beautiful life, creating an environment where they can thrive and come to their own, spending your energy on helping them grow, only to have to dispose of the failure. That's where our hope comes in. And I have hope. It's a strangely profound method of thinking for something like an orchard, and it makes you ponder if she may be referencing something else entirely. During this demo, however, we're none the wiser since this idea is never fully realized. Yet that question bothered me. We then meet Mother behind the house. She shows us the barn before this happens. It's like analog horror in a video game format, and this single event makes the context behind the barn fire that much more ominous. From here, we're left to poke around the house at night. It's strangely quiet, yet for the very first time, our brother, surprisingly, has some words for us. This entire time, Mother has been feeding us dirt, and we've been taking it like it's normal. Needless to say, everything about this family is far from that, and whether this reality is even real or not quickly gets called into question. We never see ourselves eat, we never see Mother make breakfast, and we never even saw ourselves pull up to this home in the first place. Also, down the hallway, someone is watching. So we approach. mother sucks up to us, explaining how she's always preferred the apples we picked instead of our brothers, before telling us to talk to him. We head over, and he knows it. It's almost like it's a routine he's been through a million times. As the demo draws to an end, reality distorts further and further while we're given conflicting commands, almost like weather service from Local 58. There's some sort of conflicting AI dynamic at play here, and it almost seems like none of who we thought we were was ever true. And at the very end, it finally clicks.
Lose yourself in your dream existence.
So, Mothered is a game from Enigma Studios, the same group who brought us Echostasis. And after experiencing this ending, the connection between them is clear. An entire overarching story is at play here, likely involving the AI system we saw back in Echostasis. Curiously, this demo also has another secret, because the full release of Mothered has actually been out for over a year. If you've beat it, what happens here is not the game's end, because instead, it unlocks an entire sequel, all with a massive continuation to this story, and all tying in to the other masterpieces from this game developer. It almost pains me that I can't delve into this further tonight, as this segment could easily go on for another half hour. What I will say though, is that in the very near future, you will be seeing more from Echostasis, Mothered, Enigma Corp, and the grander storyline at play here. This is like one massive AI analog horror nightmare, yet it's one that I am thrilled to flesh out in proper detail. For now though, please try this demo out. Hell, try Echostasis and envelop yourselves in their world. You and I will be back real soon. You can count on it. After a deep slumber, a trip to the vending machine spirals into an unintentional journey underground. It goes without saying that the art style Gob utilizes is definitely its strong suit. Taken stylistic cues from previous horror titles like Garage Bad Dream Adventure, or thrown into a grungy, hyper-detailed world that feels so incredibly lived in that from the very first second we're here, we feel like we're in a place far removed from home. Here we take the role of Gob, an ordinary dude living in an extraordinary location. And the premise is simple. He's hungry, and so we're left to solve that problem, to find food, somewhere. Upon poking around our home, we learn that we can not only crawl around to reach hidden spaces, but we'll also need to keep a keen eye out for items scattered around the environment itself. Gob utilizes a simple mechanic, but one I love so very much, and that's this incredibly hyper-realistic first-person view of whatever item it is we're examining. Whether it be a doorknob, our fridge, the toilet, or some shelves, all of them are shown to us with such intricate detail that we feel it to our absolute core. After making a contraption to knock the rust off our front door, we learn that outside is a sewer. We're living underground, yet aren't quite sure why or if anyone else lives here too. Eventually, we make our way to the vending machine. However, learn that damn it. Coin. Beside the vending machine is a cat hiding a key, and after taking it, we realize that we can use it on the door next to our home. And so we make our way out, and inside the storm drain connecting our world to theirs is a grabber. Taking this item back to our place allows us to catch a coin from our shelf. We're gonna get some food if it's the last goddamn thing we do. And so, with the coin in hand, Gob makes their way out and back to the vending machine. Chippy chips, here we come. God, I feel for him, man. That sucks. You might notice something off to the right there, because those symbols are on the vending machine. It's a code, and so we enter it, revealing a hidden path, very unfortunately, leading to the demo's end. Gob is such a cool project, and even though this demo was short, it gave me all I needed to add this game to my wishlist. The hyper-detailed, surreal world, the heavy atmospheric ambience filling those corridors, and a simple, relatable premise that devolves into something deeper makes for an unforgettable experience. Since the beginning, Garage has always stuck with me, and after playing this, I've got a feeling Gob's gonna do that too. Boo. Hello everyone. I bet you're wondering why I'm here. Okay, so it is currently October 28th. It's 10:30 at night, and I need to have this video out in 3 days. Okay, so I kind of hit a snag whenever I was making this video. So when I was scripting it, I realized that not every game on the Haunted PS1 demo discs are super disturbing or scary. But that's not a bad thing, because there are so many badass games on these things, like Blast Cats. It's like a Bomberman inspired game where you go through these cool ass environments and play as cats. And then Bee Knighted, where you play as a bee, and it's like N64 graphics, which is super cool. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that I had a blast playing a lot of these games, but I am a horror channel at the end of the day, and not a lot of these would have fit very well at the very end of this video, and I really wanted to send you guys off with something super creepy and nightmarish. I recently played this game that we're about to get into, and it is one of the most eerie, atmospheric games that I've played in quite a while. It is retro looking, and it does have that like 90s-esque feel, but it has a story that is super creepy, and I really enjoyed playing it, and I want to share it tonight with you guys. I love playing video games, I love scary stuff, and I know this video was different. I know. There are big things coming in the near future, trust me, but now I'm just rambling. So I guess, without further ado, this next game is a personal pick from me. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I guess roll it. This is Growing My Grandpa, an atmospheric retro point-and-click horror game created by a dev named Yames. The game takes place over a 5-week span in which we take the role of a school guidance counselor evaluating a student named Adrian. Reportedly, she's undergone a string of sudden demerits, prompting concern about her home life. The parent-teacher report we're given tells us that Adrian is often left alone, and even when around her parents, they're cold, bitter, and constantly arguing. For most of our convo, Adrian appears reticent. However, when the topic of the family basement arises, she opens up, explaining odd phenomena lurking down there. She finds an otherworldly, fibrous creature under some trash. Old photos of relatives. An ominous doll. Books about rituals. Research notes warning about the danger of something known as whiskers. A letter about a severe accident involving a man named William. And a prison cell inside the back room. At that moment, we interrupt her story. This is clearly delving into occult fantasy, and so we ask her what it is she does with the items she finds, to which she explains with just 2 words. Grandpa lives in the cage in the other room, the cage behind the door. They grew people in the cage. Adrian then explains how she read the magic book before taking the doll, gluing her grandfather's photo onto it, and placing it inside the cell with just 1 wish. For the return of her grandpa. During week 2, we again meet with Adrian. Curiously, her demeanor is a complete change from what it was prior. She's conversational, and for what it's worth, it appears that she's healing from what it was that plagued her. Curious, we probe about her grandfather, yet expect more childlike fantasy. During this session, Adrian explains her method of feeding and caring for her growing grandpa. And when we take her perspective again, we're finally able to witness what it is she's referring to. From here, the game leaves us on our own, with multiple options on how we can care for and grow this creature that we hauntingly refer to as Grandpa. And so, upon exploring the basement, we clean up trash and uncover food and items that we can use to both feed and verbally train our amalgamation. On top of this, we'll uncover documents from past experiments with Whiskers, outlining their personal experiences with it. What it likes, what it doesn't, how to properly store food, and the fact that it will eat anything because it's the mere act of feeding that matters to it. And once we finally get the ball rolling, the feeding process is not orthodox by any means because we quite literally place food into a mouth. Somewhere on this thing. 3. Adrian's recovery is smooth sailing. We had done some research in the meantime and found that her grandfather, Dr. Jacob Hart, had purchased land and constructed a building for a psychological anthropology project. Unfortunately, he died in a car accident shortly thereafter. And bizarrely, a grad student who was helping him had vanished without a trace around the exact same time. Now, with this knowledge, we chalk this up as the reason behind Adrian's outlandish stories. It's likely a coping mechanism. Yeah, that's all it is. This week, strange growths begin emerging from the basement walls. Odd, pulsating sacs that we can't do much with currently, but they've got a purpose. And so we clean up more trash, gather more food, vocab cards and documents, and tend to Grandpa once more. Interestingly, once we induce vomiting by feeding him an inedible item like a battery, he spits out scissors that we can use to break those sacs open. And when doing so, we discover a small, fleshy creature that Grandpa might like. Even though documents explicitly warn against it. Grandpa is growing at an alarming rate. He's taken the form of a human and can finally speak. Adrian converses with him, asking about his life, his shell, and his existence, and the information he divulges paints a broader picture on the way Whiskers operates. He tells Adrian that he can take the form of however he's imagined. For instance, if she perceives it as her grandpa, that's how it'll present itself, made possible through picking up her ambient thoughts when she's nearby. Furthermore, he can never truly die, no matter how much the scientists claim so in their research documents. At every cost, self-sustainability is its goal, even if it takes psychological manipulation with whoever is studying it. Something is wrong. Grandpa is nowhere to be found, and you and I are left with no other option but finding him. We chalk this up to nothing but a bad dream, yet notice that Adrian is twitching uncontrollably. And from here, she claims that Grandpa as we know him is dead, yet in a way lives on. inside of her. Now, this is but one of two endings, and if we entertain the other, we'll find that things play out quite a bit differently. Heading back to week 4, if we ignore the warnings about feeding Grandpa flesh, we find that he becomes ecstatic when we give it to him. In return, a proboscis juts out of his body, and upon grabbing it, Adrian initiates some sort of unknowable ritual. Upon exploring the basement, she finds photos of her mother, her father, and 2 paper dolls, and upon presenting these to Grandpa, it absorbs the items, reportedly instilling her with this concrete sense of completion. We again meet with Adrian for the last time, and she explains that back home, something had changed. Her parents weren't arguing, yet she heard a weird noise from the basement. I think Grandpa had to leave, but before he left, he made my parents nice, she claims. Before we witness what exactly that means. And still, believing this to be nothing but a childlike tale, we end our final meeting with the following note. I'm pleased to see things turn out this way, and if I may make a brief addendum. By happenstance, Miss Richardson bumped into the Hart family the other day while running an errand. She told me the parents were a little odd, but very pleasant, and quite clearly they adored their child. And that she had never seen Adrian happier. Growing My Grandpa is an experience unlike any other. The story presented is, more than anything, a tragic tale of a daughter that just wants to be loved, whether by her parents who can't even love themselves, or through her grandpa, who is quite literally dead. She has gone to the extent of ritualistic reincarnation to bring him back, to bring something back that will give her the affection she desperately needs. The genius behind Growing My Grandpa is that we know that Whiskers is dangerous. In the first 10 minutes of gameplay, we're given document after document warning us about the monstrosity that was being studied years ago. Yet given her childlike innocence and inner motive to bring her grandpa back, Adrian is none the wiser, and we as onlookers are left with no other option but to facilitate the creation of this monster. She goes as far as to dig through trash to gather grandpa food, making direct contact with exposed batteries and fiberglass insulation. She cuts open pulsating sacks and rummages through the corpses awaiting inside, just to find something that Grandpa might like. And she even crawls through claustrophobic vents covered in grime, just to find the fleshy abomination clinging to its dying breath that she, even then, calls her Grandpa. And don't even get me started on how she's unfazed by this game's atmosphere and setting. This game is a haunting fever dream, wrapped up in a presentation that mimics virtual pet games of years past. James is a horror genius, and if you haven't yet played this game, please do, as there are tons of lore documents that I wasn't able to cover here. Growing My Grandpa is an atmospheric, hauntingly surreal tale of longing, and if you're looking for something that'll make your skin crawl, well, that's just Grandpa's thing. you and I took a trip through some of the most eerie, disturbing, and haunting video game demos that have come out of the haunted PS1 demo discs over the past 3 years. This video was an absolute joy to create, and even though I know it's different, I hope there was at least one experience tonight that has unnerved you as much as they did to me. As a heads up, a link to each developer, along with the haunted PS1 team, are in the paste bin in the description. So if you're interested in checking any of what we covered tonight out in further detail, they're ready for you. With that being said, I think I'm gonna go chill in the food court for a while. I've heard they got some bomb-ass pizza, so I guess I'll just wait for them to open. Seems like I'm early.